Hi, it's Gunther Richter here, and in this video I'm going to teach you how to put together a strategy for your business. So be sure to watch the video all the way to the end. Defining an organizational strategy often appears daunting, but like anything, when broken down into smaller tangible pieces, it becomes a less complex and achievable piece of work. The strategic planning process is not set in stone, and as many planners or consultants you speak to, as many different approaches and methodologies you'll find. Now, I've created an easy to follow guide using some straightforward tools and approaches that I've found to work well for both myself and for organizations that I consult to. This guide is laid out in 7 sections, essentially 7 steps that you need to follow. Happy reading and happy strategy setting. Right, so let's get started with step 1. First of all, you need to think about the values of the founders, that is yourself and your business partners, and the strategic intent and purpose of your business. For example, in the early 1970s, a 22-year-old opened a record store in London, thinking it might be a success if it was a fun place to be and the prices were low. He was right. These 2 principles formed the core values for the Virgin brand. Providing a great customer experience and good value for money are the values that Richard Branson has applied to every Virgin business he launches. It's important that you recognize what your values are and how these translate to your business's intent and ultimately its purpose. The strategic intent and purpose will inform your planning and guide your organization. They should provide a frequent checkpoint to validate if you're on the correct path or not. Step 2. Perform an as-is analysis. Performing an analysis of your organization's current position is crucial and is the first step in the definition of your strategy. It's important that you consider both internal and external aspects that affect the business. Generally, any internal characteristics are largely under your control, whereas external factors are out of your control. However, one does see exceptions to the rule. For instance, large corporations lobbying the government to make legal changes. There are a number of tools and methodologies available to assist in performing an as-is analysis, the most well-known being a SWOT analysis, that is SWOT, standing for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which considers both the internal and external aspects of your organization. Make sure that you cover all of the organizational areas such as marketing, research and development, information technology, management, human resources, finance, and operations. Once you've completed this exercise, you'll have a good idea of what you can leverage to make the most out of the opportunities that you have identified and what external constraints will be placed upon your organization. It's also important to note that circumstances might never be perfect, but the outcomes identified by this exercise will help you plan for these challenges. Next, you need to identify your market, your products, and your value propositions. That is what you're going to be offering your customers. You want to understand how what you identified in step 2 comes together. What is the specific customer need that your business can satisfy? Who are the customers that will buy your products or services? Try and put yourself in your customer's shoes. A good way to do this is by creating a number of personas representing what your typical customer might look like. Include demographics, hobbies, and other personal traits. Use this to try and understand their wants, needs, and desires. This approach is used very effectively as part of the design thinking process, a methodology often used to assist new product development. Once you know who your customers are likely to be, you can start to tailor your product and service offerings to address the wants, needs, and desires of these prospects and ultimately customers. Next, you'll be wanting to define your strategic business goals. It's time to understand what success looks like. It's no good saying you'll be successful when you have loads of clients or you're installing plenty of kitchens. You need some tangible goals to measure your business against. A good start is to ask yourself a few questions such as, is the purpose of this business only to provide a single income, effectively replacing my existing job? Or do you want the business to grow in terms of revenue? Do you want to be providing jobs to others? How sustainable should this business be? And should it be running with little or no involvement from yourself in the future? These are just a sample of the sorts of things you should be considering. But I think provide some good insight into what you should be aiming for and what you should be measuring against. Having clearly identified your business goals as well as a way to measure your progress and success, it's time to start thinking about how you're going to achieve these goals. The next step then is really to identify or define some initiatives or the steps you need to take effectively to implement the strategy. As we all know, strategy is worthless without any action. So how do you now turn your plans into a reality? Let's take the next step. You need to identify one or more initiatives for each of the goals you set in the previous step. You have already done some of the work in the previous step, and now it needs a little more detail. Let's consider an example of some of our goals. Goal 1, we might want to achieve £40,000 of profit. Goal 2, we want to attract or land 20 new customers. Goal 3, we want to be able to make 100 sales calls in a month or a week. The next one, we want to be able to distribute 5,000 leaflets. We want to be able to complete a kitchen installation in 11 days. And if you haven't figured it out by now, we're using a kitchen installation business as an example here. Now that you've identified where you're going and what you're going to do to get there, it's very important that you track your progress. It's important for two reasons. First, you need to know when you've achieved your target, and secondly, how you're tracking. Does it look like you'll achieve your target, or do you need to make any changes to what you're doing to make that target? In step 4, you made some good progress setting actual targets. These were directly related to your business goals, you'll recall. And now it's time to consider those in more detail. For example, the first target we identified was £40,000 in profit. You know that profit is the difference between revenue and costs, so you might want to create another 2 targets. This then effectively gives you 2 levers with which to control profit. You can either increase revenue or decrease costs, or both. The final step then in this process is one that many people forget about, and in many respects could be considered the most important. Defining your strategy and detailing a plan to implement it doesn't mean your work is done. It's also important to note that while your strategy guides everything you do, it's not set in stone. The previous step focused on measuring your performance and therefore the success of your strategy. It also spoke about acting on your performance and being able to mitigate any unfavorable results. In view of your performance and changing circumstances, your strategy needs to be regularly reviewed and adjusted where necessary. This doesn't mean re-engineering everything that you've done or totally changing your strategic direction. Rather, it does mean tweaking your strategy to better leverage the bits that are working well and making changes to the bits that are not working so well. Right, let's summarize what we've covered in this video. I'll take you through the steps one more time. Step number 1, you need to identify the values of the founders of the business as well as the strategic intent and purpose of the business. Next, step number 2, you need to perform an as-is analysis. Step number 3, identify your market, your products and your value propositions. Step 4, set your strategic business goals. Step 5, identify a number of initiatives to implement those goals or achieve those goals. Step number 6, measure the performance on how you're doing. And finally, step number 7, take that feedback and make any adjustments that you need to. So in summary then, taking a structured approach to defining your strategy, setting your objectives and measuring your performance will increase your company's chances of success and is time and effort well invested. Defining and planning an organizational strategy is not just an exercise in documenting what you hope will happen. It's a clear set of goals and an actionable set of initiatives to help your organization achieve those goals. In addition to this, an often overlooked benefit of an organizational strategy is that it helps entrepreneurs understand what to do when things don't always go well. It's no secret that many new ventures fail during the first year, and it's important that new business owners know what to do, not only when things are going according to plan, but also when things go wrong. So if you'd like some more help, hit the button below this video, and as a thank you, I'll send you a free ebook which talks about the 7 steps in a little more detail. I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks for watching.